I've got a notepad, but I promise I won't take that one. I'm going to run real quick through just kind of my life and how I grew up. But I do have a scripture that I want to start with, and it's on John 10:10. It talks about the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy. Start right there. I myself grew up in church as a young kid. My dad actually taught Sunday school. My grandpa was actually my pastor. We did a lot of things when we were little. We went on mission trips, basically to Mexico. That's where our family was from. That's where my dad was from, so that's where we went. There was a family. It was my mom, my dad, 3 of us. So I have 2 brothers. In the home was different than it was at church on Sundays. My dad, again, taught Sunday school. But when we would come home, there was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of aggression, a lot of anger, I guess, going on in the home. I remember as a young kid running. I had to have been pretty little because I remember running and hiding underneath like the couch, underneath the end tables, out of fear. Things would stir up in the home and they got that bad. So that's pretty much how I grew up. I can remember being little and wondering, you hear at church, you hear about Jesus, you hear about God, how great He is, how awesome He is. But then to go home into a situation like that, it makes you question things. It makes you wonder, is this for real? Is this really life? And if it isn't, what's the point of going on? I remember as a young kid thinking those thoughts. Why am I here? What's the point? What's the reason? This is not fun. This continued for a while. Many years later, we moved to Tulsa in 1993. My mom and dad were having problems. So at that time, I was still good, I guess in a sense, to the fact that I guess when I was younger, I was the oldest, so I was trained. You train your kids to be good, not to do this, not to do that. So as my brothers came up, my parents started having issues. So as they started having issues, my little brothers kind of just slipped underneath the table and did what they wanted to do. In 93, we moved here. My parents separated about a year after that. A few years after that, they finally just ended up divorced. Out of that, I still stayed what I want to say is good. I did what I had to do, went to school, did my things, but my brothers turned to drugs, turned to alcohol, turned to all kinds of stuff, to where they both ended up actually getting kicked out of school. Neither one of them officially graduated, and life went on. I was good until my early 20s. And I remember thinking and looking back that, I've been so good for so long and I've still gotten nowhere in my life and it's gotten me nothing. So what did I do? I turned to drugs and alcohol. I had turned to drugs and alcohol at the point I started drinking, hanging out. It was a good time, doing what you do. Eventually, all of that drugs and alcohol turned into a lifestyle of basically, looking back now, is there was a void in my life, and that void was from when I was a kid, still remembering, looking back and thinking, is this it? This is really life? This is all that there is? I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all, I did drugs, I did alcohol, I did marijuana, I did cocaine, I did meth, I did crack, I did pills. I went in that far, guys, and I hope and pray that no one ever goes into that, you guys here. That is not a life that you want to live. That's not a life that anybody needs to be in. Through all of that, I know you hear about living the life, everybody having fun, partying. That's part of it, I guess. But when I would go home, I can remember thinking suicidal thoughts. Thoughts of killing myself. It's always been there for me. That's pretty much what drove my life at that point with the drugs and alcohol. It was just something to cover up. Through this, I still went to church. I was a guy that would sit in the back. I'd have my Quick Trip cup. I had alcohol and liquor, and I would still come into church. Don't know why. I don't really have an answer for that other than I just went to church. I know people began to ask me, hey, are you okay? What's going on? I did seem a little different to people, but my answer was always, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm good. Not a problem. I got to the point in 2004, as you can tell from 93 to 2004, it's been a few years there, but I got to the point where this lifestyle was still going on for me. In August and September of 2004, I had a buddy. We would always go out and do all of this, and I knew that he carried a gun in his truck. In those moments, I would reach for his gun and tell him, hey, I'm done. And we would literally fight going down the street, down the highway. I'm fighting for the gun, he's fighting to take it, and he's driving, and it was a mess. I mean, if you can imagine, that's just a mess. And this was in August and September of 2004. By November and December of 2004, those were still my words, those were still my thoughts, but at this point, I didn't have to have alcohol or drugs or anything inside of me influencing my mind at this point. At this point, I was just done. I'm done. It got to the point where that's where it did. We just continually fought and argued. I really didn't I guess, seek it other than the fact that we were always together and I knew he had a gun. And that's what we did. We ended up just fighting. There was an incident at New Year's Eve, 2004 and 2005. I had a party at my house. And I don't know the situation. I don't remember what happened. All I remember is that something happened that was said to be my fault. That wasn't. But again, that's pretty much at this point how I was. Everything that happened was my fault, and it was for a good cause. I got upset and left my house, left the party, left everybody there. And I remember sleeping in my truck that night on New Year's in the parking lot at Kohl's. I don't know, I think if you get to that point where you're questioning your life, and by this point you're done, and then you spend New Year's in a parking lot, I think you pretty much reaching rock bottom. I remember waking up the next day, pretty early, but I just sat in my truck because I didn't want to go home and see anybody. I got home about 2 o'clock. This was on the 1st. And I remember turning off my phone, locking the doors, turning off my lights, and I just laid on the couch, watched TV, did whatever, just kind of kept to myself. This went on until January 3rd, which is a Wednesday. Again, if you remember back, I did mention I was still going to church, I was still hanging out, we did youth group, we did all that. So we had a community group on Wednesday, and I remember my buddy saying, hey, I really want everybody there on Wednesday. Okay? So Wednesday came around after, 3 days of sitting home on the couch alone. I'll go. I got in the shower. As I'm in the shower, I begin to just cry and break down. I think everything just at that point started to come out. I fell on my knees in the shower and just cried. Just said, I'm done. I'm done. I mean, what is this life about? I'm done. I've tried. I've wanted. I can't do anything. I'm done. I know, you may hear when you pray, you feel a spirit, or you feel something. Sometimes you sense something. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes it's just miraculous. It's a big healing, a touch. I remember just initially, just a quick, from one blink to the next blink, something was different. That's the only way I can explain it, the only thing that I remember. When I got out of the shower, we all have those big vanity mirrors. I remember pulling back the curtain and looking at the mirror, and I remember having to look back at the mirror because I didn't recognize the guy in the mirror. That is how much I had changed and changed within me. From that point on, I've been a new guy, a different guy, never really fully complete the way I needed to be, but from that point on, a lot of things happened. That's actually the year I met my wife and the kids. Life just kind of really turned around for me. for me. Up to that point, to be honest, I didn't really want a wife. I didn't want kids. I figured, if I don't want to be here, why would anybody else want to be here? And then why would I want to be associated with that? That was my thought process up to that point. So life kind of went in and on out from that point in 2005, and I'll skip ahead to this past summer in 2012. I got to where I was driving, and I looked forward ahead a little bit and thought, as I was younger, or as I was thinking, I was like, I'm going to be 35 in November, and I've got to myself here, I've done nothing with my life, nothing that I should be doing to show for anything. I began to pray in my car, just driving, just praying and literally crying to God and saying, Lord, I'm done. I'm fully done. Change my life. Use me. Mold me. Break me. Put me through fire. If you put through fire and you're being molded, it may hurt, but at the end, that finished product is what the product that you want to be. That's what I wanted to be. So I continued that prayer. And this was back in, when I say May, the summer, May, June. Well, in July, my wife actually lost her job. In the time, she made more money than I did. So that was a big chunk that we lost. Life kind of continued that way. My sales began to decline. Life kept going. I still kept praying. But in the midst of that prayer, I'm thinking, oh Lord, now what's going on? This is not what I'm asking for. We're going the wrong way. There is something that came up. When she lost her job, we had already had vacation booked, and we ended up in South Padre. There was a guy on the second to last night that we were there that had come out at a store and came out with a pack of ice and some beer, alcohol. I don't remember what it was, but we walked up, but I was in his way. As he came through, I got out of his way and said, hi, how are you? Just made contact. So the next night, the last night we were there, he sees me and he says, hey, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He said, are you a preacher? I said, no. I said, I'm not. He said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not. So he begins to tell me how he felt convicted when we made eye contact with his beer and alcohol in this ice as he was leaving that night. And I commented, hey man, if you only knew, because I was drinking a lot of beer too at that time, I don't know why you would even think that. So that was my thought process going through there. This was the first week of August. August 19th, my prayer still continued. Lord, I'm here, show me, guide me. August 19th, actually here in service, I remember during worship, I remember looking down. I remember the image of the chair and immediately feeling in my spirit, if you want what is best for your life, drop the alcohol. Okay? So you're praying, tell me what to do, I'll do it. Tell me what to do, I'll do it. The second I heard that, it became an argument. Drop the alcohol? This is what you want me? This is your big plan for my life, to drop the alcohol. The next thing that came to my mind was the 18-pack of Tecate that I had just bought the night before, sitting in my fridge. So I continued conversation, argument, and I said, okay, you got it, I'm done. But it was so intense that I remember when I finally looked up, I remember saying, oh, I'm in church. We were that intense in that conversation. So this was August 19th. August 21st, I'm in paint sales, so I drive around a lot. One of my contractors had guided me to an area off of Sheridan and said, hey, I need you there, I need you to come quote something for me. I said, okay. So I ended up there. There was actually construction going on. It was about 5 o'clock because there was a guy loading up and finishing up. So I ended up on this right side, nothing. So I called him and I said, hey, I don't see anything. He said, no, it's on the left side. So I go to the left side. I said nothing. So I called him back and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I sent you to the wrong place. Okay, I'll go to the right place. As I'm walking back, the contractor loading up He's loading his truck, of course. You say hi, you're going to cross paths. So I said hi, and in that, he said, hey, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, are you a preacher? I said, no. Of course, now this is the second time it's happened in a month. His next statement out of his mouth, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's doing. I know he's working. I don't know who he is or what he does. He says, I have not had alcohol in 17 years. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. God works in the way He wants to work. So we continued having conversation. We talked about Christ. We talked about life changes and things going on. Life kind of kept going. This was August. September, October again. We lost our job. My sales are still declining. We're starting to get in a hurt now. By the time we get to November, I can remember sitting down doing bills. And just for reference, I'm going to throw a couple numbers out. Let's say I needed $1,000 for my bills. At this point, I had pulled every bit of money I had from savings or anywhere that I could pull. I had $500. No way could I pay these bills. I remember sitting down. At this point, I had been juggling and toggling my bills. But at that point, I remember thinking, okay, God, this is you or it's nothing, because I'm out. I can't handle it. Obviously, I don't have it. I don't have anywhere to pull. And out of that came a peace. I can't explain. There's just a peace that came out of that. There was a peace that I know that God is there. God is going to stand. God is for me. God is there. He's taking care of me. We got so bad, and I'll be honest with you, we got so bad that December, we didn't have any money. We had no money. And we all know December is Christmas time, so we had no money. It came to a point that a gentleman actually from church one morning said, hey, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah. And he said, hey, I feel like I want to give Christmas for you guys this year. Is it okay? I remember in the midst of that conversation when he was telling me this, in my mind I remember thinking the emotions were like, you know what, I feel like I should cry, like I want to cry because I'm grateful. But on the other hand, I was laughing with him, I guess. I was laughing because that peace that was there just kind of took it the other way, and I thought, okay, God, so this is what you're going to do. This is how you're coming through this time for us. It was just a peace that I can't explain that kind of went on. So that's how we ended up to that route. And I had an opportunity in the end of December and the 1st of January to go to Israel. Not on my funds. It was paid for, so that's another gift from God. I remember when I thinking, when you get back from a trip, you're gone for 10 days or so. I went by myself with my brother. So I remember thinking, when you get back from a trip like that, I'm married, so I figured, my spouse, oh, hey, I miss you, I love you, here we go, it's lovey-dovey time. That week was probably the worst week of to date. And again, it was a financial deal. As I was going on the trip, I still had Wi-Fi. I was able to check the account. We had gone under. I was pulling more money, and I said, we can't spend nothing, and it just became an argument. In the midst of all of that, there was a day when we had met with someone, and they began to talk about just life and God and different things. And I remember my stomach starting to turn, because at this point I'm thinking, okay, Lord, I feel that I'm following your plan. I feel that I'm where you want me to be. I feel like I'm doing everything right at this point, but yet we're sinking. I'm sinking financially. We're arguing. We're fighting about it. This doesn't make sense to me. So I remember leaving that place, and I was set to go somewhere else, but I remember that I actually went home, sat in my driveway, and I was just praying. I said, Lord, I need something from you. I need something from you now. At this moment, you've got to show me something. Show me something. I'm in my car, my stereo, I don't know, it's XM, it's Christian music, so I'm listening to that, and I remember thinking, oh, this is slow. I'm not in the mood for this. Change the channel. This is slow. I'm not in the mood for this. I clicked my phone on. It began playing Flyleaf. So if you guys know Flyleaf, it's a rock music. It's a little faster, a little quicker, something that was more fitting in my mood at the time. And in that, I'm still praying. I remember at this point, I'm parked in my driveway. My hands are over my face. And I'm like, Lord, I need something. I need something from you now, because this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. You need to show me. I want your will, not me. Show me. In the midst of that, the song begins to play. And I'm listening to these words. And I remember saying, really? This is how you're going to talk to me now? Through this song? Through these lyrics? And so I played it back again. So I'm listening to it. So I got it on my phone. And part of the chorus, part of the lyrics say, they don't have to understand you. And then he says, be still. Wait and know I understand you. Be still. And then he says, be still again. So that's what caught my attention, was be still. Nobody has to understand. I'm in charge. Just be still. The next verse comes up. It says, here you are down on your knees again, trying to find air to breathe again, and only surrender with hope.